Hello everybody, Calamity here. Hopefully your Lantern Rite Festival is going well. And today we're going to talk about the 4-star characters that you can invite after you achieve 800 Festive Fever points during the event. This is just going to be a quick rundown of each character to help new players decide which character they should invite. Now before we start, I just want to say that hey, if you think a character looks cool or you enjoyed them during the event, or you just got unlucky with your pulls in the past and you just really want this character, go for it. Who cares if they're not good or whatever? If you just want to, collect a bunch of cool characters that you like, then that is all up to you. This video is just for new players that just might be overwhelmed with all the choices and just not know what kind of character or like how the character plays and just wants a little bit of information before they make a choice on who to invite. With that being said, let's start with Yaoyao, our brand new 4-star character that was added in this very update. And Yaoyao is a Dendro healer, and she's a very good healer. Something that I learned about her after I made that video where we tested her. Yaoyao actually heals your entire team simultaneously. It's not like Bennett or Diona where they put that field and only the active character in the field gets the heal. It doesn't matter if the character is off field or on field, Yaoyao can heal your entire team. Straight up. And she heals very fast and a lot. Very good healer, and she's already a good fit in many of the already established Dendro teams out there, like Keqing's Aggravate team, Nilo's Bloom team, and I'm sure there's other Hyper Bloom, Aggravate, Dendro stuff out there that she can definitely replace your Dendro applicator on that team. Now you might lose a bit of damage depending on who you're using, like Nahida gives you a lot of extra damage and buffs, so does Traveler with their burst. But she'll compensate for that loss in damage with her healing, keeping your team alive. So if you value that in your team and you need a little bit more survivability, Yaoyao is amazing. Now, if you're still new and you don't have any of these like Dendro, teams set up, she can still just be an overall good healer for your team, no matter what team she's in. So if you need a really strong healer, Yaoyao, definitely a good pull. Next up, we have Xiangling. She is probably one of the strongest 4-star characters in the game, as I'm sure most people know. You can get her for free if you complete the Spiral Abyss. I believe it's floor 3, or it's one of the earlier floors where you are given Xiangling for free. So if you haven't done that yet, you might want to hold off your invitation. She is a sub DPS pyro character, which means she can do all of her damage off field, and she is used in many of the popular teams in the Spiral Abyss that can easily 36 star it. So if you're looking for a very strong character, if not one of the strongest characters in this lineup, Xiangling is a absolute must-have for a lot of teams. Next up, we have Beidou, who is a sub DPS Electro character. And now, when the game was first released, Electro wasn't really in a good spot, as the reactions for Electro just weren't good. With Dendro, they've gotten much better. Beidou is still sort of in a weird spot. She is still a good character, and I believe she is very underrated. However, I wouldn't recommend her to new players just because she does have quite a difficult playstyle. Her skill is more of a defensive tool. So if you do like countering, if your playstyle revolves around you like to counter enemies or have like a defensive stance against enemies, she's going to be a great option for you. Her burst is really good as it allows you to apply Electro to multiple enemies via normal attacks. And you can shift this effect to another DPS that isn't Beidou. Very strong character, but she also does need an Electro battery to get her burst more consistently. Editing Calamity here. I forgot to add something about Beidou during the recording of the video. Beidou is actually really good if you want to do Electro charge teams. This usually consists of teams like Beidou, of course, Fischl. You could use someone like Child or even Kokomi as a Hydro applicator. Okay, back to the video. Next up, we have Xingqiu, who is also on that debate for best 4-star character in the game. Xingqiu is more similar to Xiangling in this case because he is also a sub DPS, meaning he can do all of his damage, again, off field. He does this via his burst. He does a lot of damage with his burst, as well as applying a lot of Hydro, which is a great element for setting up a lot of really good elemental reactions. Just like Xiangling, he is also used in a lot of popular teams in the Spiral Abyss. In fact, they're both sometimes used together if we're talking about a team like Raiden's international team, Xiangling and Xingqiu are both part of that team. He is a very, very strong character. Very solid. You definitely want his constellations as well. So if you don't have this guy, you definitely will want to send him an invite. If you had to choose between Xiangling and Xingqiu, again, I would recommend Xingqiu just because you get Xiangling as a free reward in the Spiral Abyss. Next up, we have Ningguang, who is a 4-star Catalyst Geo main DPS. She does damage via her burst as well as charge attacks. She's a very strong and solid character. However, it's not that this character is weak, it's more that Geo, the element itself, is weak, since there isn't really a good elemental reaction for it. The only thing you can do with Geo is just crystallize, and that's just not that great. That being said, Ningguang also is lacking in good Geo supports for her. Ningguang's also probably seeing a lot of usage in the current iterations of the Spiral Abyss just because the Golden Wolf Lord is in it, and she can really help you destroy those statues during his shield phase. But with that being said, Ningguang is just an overall good, solid DPS. Unfortunately, like I said, just doesn't have a lot of strong teammates. Like, you can use her with Bennett for added damage. So if you're looking for a main DPS Geo character, Ningguang is definitely a character to pull for. Next up, we have Chongyun, which is going to be our first character that I cannot recommend for new players. Chongyun is unfortunately one of those characters that's just been power crept massively as more and more characters have come out. Chongyun has definitely just lost his place in, the meta or the popular teams. Chongyun has an elemental skill that will convert your normal attacks into cryo. He has cryo infusion, and his burst does pretty good damage, I would say. But that being said, because his skill converts your attacks to cryo, that can mess up his synergy with a lot of other characters. The only time I can recommend Chongyun to somebody is if you have Shenhe, and you're trying to set up some sort of weird convert some characters' attacks into cryo and then amplify that damage with Shenhe. I've seen this before with Zhongli and Zhao, for example, but that's a very niche thing to do, and that's not very new player friendly, and not a lot of people have Shenhe either, so it's hard to recommend this character at all. Again, if you do think this character is cool and you just like the way he looked and all that stuff, feel free to just invite him anyways, but I don't recommend him. He's just not that great. You have a lot of better options in this lineup already. Here's another character that I cannot recommend in good faith. Unfortunately, we have Xinyan, our favorite rocker. She is a pyro support character that gives your team a pyro shield. However, one of her best roles is also being a physical damage dealer. Now, one of the biggest problems with Xinyan is that it's like Hoyoverse didn't know what to do with her because she can scale in so many different ways, but they're all really, really bad. So, like, you can choose to invest in your shield, but when it comes to shields, there's a person in this game called Zhongli, as we all know, who has a really, really powerful shield. There's also other characters that can provide shields, but also more than that. So we have, like, for example, Diona. She can shield and heal, and if you have her C6, she also provides buffs. Just not a good character in general, and just not recommended. She can be fun to play as, though, I suppose, but if you're a new player, I am going to advise you to just pick somebody else. Next up, we have Yunjin, who is a 4-star Geo support character. I only recommend playing Yunjin if your main DPS does damage via normal attack. So if you're a Yoimiya user, if you're an Ayato user, etc., characters like that just rely mainly on normal attack damage, Yunjin is going to help you amplify said damage even more. That's basically her entire kit. Her skill is a bit like Beidou's, where it's more of a defensive option where you use it to counter your enemy's attacks for big damage, but not everyone likes that playstyle. And again, her main use is just that buff. She's just a simple support buff character. She doesn't really heal, but if you do get her to C6, which is really worth it, she does give your main DPS, or your team rather, a attack speed boost, which is really rare to come by. Very, very solid character for that. But if you're not using any sort of normal attack damage on your main DPS, then she is a pass. Lastly, we have Yanfei, who is a 4-star DPS pyro character. It was once believed that she was just a 4-star Klee, but that's not really true because they both have, somewhat very different playstyles, and Yanfei can actually work with more teammates than Klee does, because Klee is a very odd DPS, but we're not here to talk about Klee, we're here to talk about Yanfei. Yanfei does damage from building up her seals, which she gets from doing normal attacks. You get a bunch of seals, you do a charge attack, and it's like this big stamp that does big damage, and then you rebuild the seals again. She's a very solid DPS character, although obviously she does get outshined by many of the other 5-star DPS characters in the game, like Hu Tao, Yoimiya, etc. Don't let the fact that she's a 4-star make you think she's not good or can't compete with 5-star characters. She's very strong. She's also able to do all of the content in the Spiral Abyss. Yanfei can also be used as a support-ish type, because at C4 she gets a shield whenever she uses her burst. Some people like to build her in that way if you want. It is an option, but you can either just build her as a main DPS or a shield support at C4. I prefer to use her as a main DPS. With that being said, that is going to be the end of the video. Let me know if you guys have any questions. If I missed something about any of these 4-star characters, feel free to ask in the comments below. Let me know what characters you plan to invite once you reach that 800 festive fever. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe if you like the content, and I'll see you in the next video.